Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tinker's Cart Art. We are going to have a fun afternoon painting today. So I hope you are all ready to paint the Frida Mermaid. Really a fun take on mermaid paintings. I love our under the water theme this month. So that is a lot of fun. And thanks to Tracy for organizing all that on the online paint night group page. So I want to say hello and let me know when you jump in. I'm coming to you today through StreamYard. That's why you get to see the painting pretty well right here as I'm going along. So say hello. I see you guys are popping in. Say hello when you come in. StreamYard will ask you permission to your permission, and it's going to allow me to see your name when you're commenting. So that's the only difference is it just lets me see who you are. I know we're coming to you from a few different places today. I am in the online paint night group. I'm on my Tinker's Cart Art page, and we're also live on YouTube. So say hello and let me know where you are watching me from. And I also love to know where you are, on which platform you're watching me from, but also like where you're watching from. I'm in Maine right now coming to you. And it's kind of a little bit of a dreary day. It's a little overcast today. I'm surprised it was supposed to be sunny. But here we are. It's a great day to paint. So do say hello. Let me put the comments up here. I did put a link there for you. If you did not see the tracers, I have tracers in a number of sizes for you. And I've got your comments up, so please say hello. And if you have any questions, post them. If I happen to not see it as we're painting along, I will certainly come back to the video and answer those questions anytime. You can always reach out to me. So here we go. Let's see. I am going to paint on a 10 by 20 inch canvas today. I love these long rectangular canvases. They come in a few different sizes. You can get smaller ones, bigger ones. It's a cool shape, and I love using them horizontally or vertically as we are doing today. I have traced on my Frida design. Notice that I don't trace on all the little details. Like I know the tail has some little decorative details. I do that later on. We're going to kind of make it easy on you guys. We're going to do it with a Sharpie later and then just throw a little paint in there. I like to give you the pattern for the whole design just because you'll have it visually next to you. But sometimes if it's a small detail, you don't have to trace it all on. Although if you did trace it on, it's fine because if you outline with your Sharpie all your little bits and you paint your green tail over it, you'll still see your lines through there. So it's a good little guide to have. So anyways, without further ado, we are going to get started and I'll show you what I'm using for paintings. Good morning. I see Facebook user, but if you would just go, just put your name in there too so I know who you are, if you would. When I look at it later on the different platforms, I'll see who you are, but I know it's a little wonky with the StreamYard with the permissions, but it does allow me to stream to you so that you can see a really nice view of me painting instead of that upside down sideways view I sometimes have. So welcome. It is a fun painting. I love Frida, all things Frida. And I'll get started on my background and then I'll tell you about the paints. That way I'll give it a chance to dry. Background painting, very simply, probably 2 coats, letting it dry in between just to get some good coverage. Whatever big brush you have, a big flat acrylic brush. I do like my hog bristle brushes, the reason being if I'm painting on canvas, it digs right into the nooks and crannies. If you would like, you could paint your edge as you go. Or sometimes I just paint my edge with a Payne's Gray or a dark color contrasting trim. What's great about these gallery wrapped canvases is that you do not have to frame them. You can simply put a little push pin in the wall and hang them right up. Hi, Janice. Thanks for joining today. I love to paint, and I love to paint with you guys. If I'm going to sit and paint, it's kind of nice to have some company. So thanks for joining. Please do say hello. Let me know if you're watching me on Online Paint Night or my page, Tinker's Cart Art, or YouTube. If you don't know who I am, I just teach acrylic painting. I love to paint. I love to teach absolute beginners as well as more advanced painters. I create all my own designs and then I paint them for you in a really easy step-by-step way to learn, which is kind of cool. So if you do not follow me on the platforms, I'm all over the social media. I do have a private group on my website. I have a free group there and I also have my membership. I will post that as we go along. I meant to throw that in the comments there, and I did not before we started. But if you'd like to follow me there, sometimes it's nice because we don't have all of the other things bombarding us on some of the social media places. So I do have my own private group on my website. So I'll give you that information later. I know it's a big canvas. I'm going to scoot it all around so you can see what I'm doing, so no worries. But if there is a point where I am not having it so that you can see what I'm painting, just shout out and I will correct the view or correct where I'm painting. I'm simply using, I love this color. This is a Calypso Blue, Americana Deco Art. It's not quite teal, but it's a tealy blue. I love teal, but this blue is a nice for the background. Since we are under the sea here, this is going to be an under the water color. And I'm simply going to paint my background now, just a solid blue. Now, this blue looks like it's covering pretty well. You could leave the one coat or do the second coat if you think you need it. In the background, because I love to have a lot of little decorative, whimsical touches, I do put a little spiral design in there, very subtle. But if you'd like, you can put that in. I just like the way it looks. And if you want, you can make it plain. That's what I like to have you do. When you're painting with me, you do not have to follow what I do exactly. I show you how I do things, but I would love to see you put your own spin on things, pick your own colors, change things up. You're not trying to make a carbon copy of my painting. You are trying to create your own version. And the way you do that is just to pick out colors you like. Try techniques you want to try. Acrylics are very forgiving. You can paint over them if you don't like them. So do jump in and try to be a little more brave with experimenting. Now, if you would like, when you're going around these little bits and pieces, you could certainly switch over to a smaller brush. I'm just doing the best I can with this big brush. And like I said, you can paint your edges or you can leave them and paint them a contrasting color later. So either way is fine. I am going to take 1 second to just look and make sure I'm streaming on the pages. So let me just pull up something real quick here just to make sure. And then I will keep on going. I just like to make sure we're in the places we should be. So I'm going to keep doing that as we go. Yes, great. Okay, perfect. Alrighty. In this Calypso Blue. And I'll tell you the colors as we go. Sometimes you might want to be painting along with me here, but sometimes you just watch and paint later. This is going to all be recorded, so you can watch it at your leisure anytime. You can go back and rewind and stop and start wherever you want, which is a nice feature. I do that in my art membership. We paint together. We get together twice a month. Always recorded, though, so if you don't make the lives, no worries. And then we paint live together too. And lots of times people paint along or they simply hang out, chit chat, watch, and then come back with the recording and paint. It's a nice way to be able to offer the classes. Nothing that you have to attend live all the time. And this could vary. Like I said, I like this Calypso Blue. You could get very blue-green. You could very teal. You could get dark blue if you wanted. It's all a cool way to take the design that I offer you and then just mix it up a little bit. So anyway, I am going to get a smaller brush and cut into some of the smaller areas here because I've got her little earrings and whatnot. So I'm going to put my brush aside because I might have to touch up some of that background. So I might come back and put a little bit of a second coat. But for now, I'm going to just grab a smaller, a little round, just a synthetic brush, nothing real fancy. And when I'm doing detailed pieces and adding details, sometimes the paint's a little thick. I will oftentimes add a little bit of water just to make it flow a little nicer. I do have this big area down here between where her tail kind of curves, so I'm just going to paint that in. But see how the soft brushes, you brush the tops, you skim over the top of the canvas? That's why I like the hog bristles. They dig right into those little nooks and crannies a little easier. So if I'm doing background painting, landscapes, and things where I really want to dig into that canvas, I will use those hog bristle brushes. And they come in all sizes. You would find them more in the fine art departments of the stores when you go in. They're hog bristle. I usually get a filbert. I like that rounded tip. I can get into a lot of places with that. And I just have like 3 or 4 different sizes. It's not something you have to have a lot of. You could even have one larger one just to do your base coating and your backgrounds and just some textural stuff when you're painting. I like to paint all sorts of things. Hello you guys. And I'd love to hear what you like to paint. If I get suggestions for ideas for paintings, I sometimes will put them in the rotation. So I'm always looking for some new ideas and things as well. All righty. And what's everybody painting? The summer is getting away from us. And I'm still loving to paint summer things. I was just at the market and Halloween candy was out, which I love. Halloween's one of my favorite holidays. I love the Christmas. I love Halloween. I just am not ready to paint it yet. And I know that's what everybody's doing, but I'm still having fun with my summer stuff. So I really love this Under the Sea theme and online paint night this month. Stay tuned for all of the great presenters and with all the great Under the Sea themed things that are going to come your way. And I'm just kind of carefully going along following the pattern here. I could very well paint this all in and just paint the earrings on top. But just to give you, because if you really are depending on the tracer, I sort of just go around it. It gives me a rough idea where they'll be. And then I can always paint on top a little bit if the edges aren't perfect. So don't struggle to get every little edge perfect. We just want to get that background filled in. And like I said, that's the Deco Art Americana Calypso Blue. I am not affiliated with any of the companies, but I'll tell you what I like to use. If I'm using a craft paint, I like the Deco Art. It does cover well. Hey, Pam, thank you for stopping in. It's good to see you. So I do like, for a craft paint, the Deco Art. I also like Liquitex a lot. I can't get some of the colors that I love to mix. I mix a lot of colors. You don't need a lot of colors. You could get your primaries and mix most anything. But I do like a couple colors in the Liquitex too. And these are 4-ounce bottles, so the pricing on those is pretty good when you consider you're getting twice as much as you are in the little 2-ounce craft paints. And then for some of my fine art, when I do my plein air painting and my really fine art in acrylic, I'll use the golden liquid paints. And they are fabulous. The coverage on those is like amazing. So I want you to paint. So I want you to start with just any paint you have and just get going. And then you can find out what you like, what colors you like. If you go for the more pricier paint, you don't need all the colors. You can mix so many. And as I go along, I generally try to tell you how to mix any colors you might need too. So, and always speak up and ask if you are looking for a mix that I didn't explain. I'm happy to answer that for you. So there we go. We're going to put this background in. We've almost got it covered. I may just hop right in and do my spirals on this. Let me take a look when it dries. This is a pretty good coverage on this paint. Some colors are more transparent than others, you'll find. Yellows and oranges. I usually will put multiple coats, but if I'm painting a yellow or an orange or something transparent over a dark color, I will base coat it right all over again in white a few coats, and then you'll get a nice bright color if that's what you're after. So there's ways of working around some of the colors that might be a little more transparent. When you get into the less expensive paints, that's what you get, is you get a more transparent paint. It doesn't have as much pigment in it. So sometimes it's maybe a little more money, but sometimes it's worth it for a paint that has better pigment. So that's all that we are painting in the blue. So you can see I painted all around her, in between the tail there. And I'm going to just quickly take the big brush I used to begin with. I see a few spots I missed. When you're painting on the canvas, you got the white canvas. And if you miss a few spots, it doesn't really show up till the paint dries because it just looks like a little sparkle. So just kind of take a look and make sure you've got most of it covered. I'm just going to give a quick coat where I see either a white spot underneath or it just didn't cover well. I'm not going to go carefully like I did and do every bit. I'm just going to go where I see that I missed something or it's just really transparent. And like I said, we're going to do, this is a little technique I've done for a lot of paintings, is the outlining with the Sharpie. Sometimes I outline it and then kind of fill the paint in. The paint covers the Sharpie a little bit, then I sort of just touch up the Sharpie at the end. The one thing about using Sharpie or paint marker, I love the Posca paint markers too, so whatever you have, but always remember to let your paint really dry. You do not want to touch your painting with your markers or your Sharpies until the paint is really dried. Otherwise, you'll seize that marker right up. So you have a nice, beautiful, expensive paint marker and it will just clog right up if it hits wet paint, damp paint. So keep in mind that you want to have that painting really dry before you do any little embellishments or details with your paint markers or any marker for that matter, actually. I'll probably use my hairdryer here and there to dry this up a little quicker because I don't want you just to be hanging around watching paint dry. I want you to actually see what I'm doing. So if I need to get the paint to dry, I will use a heat gun or a hairdryer for that. I think I've covered everything I need to here. When I do those little spirals I talked about, I can do it onto the wet paint a little bit because I don't mind if it blends a little. I don't want a bright white spiral just popping out at you. I want it to be subtle and mixed in the background. So I would either, if the paint was dry, I'd mix it with a little blue, or I'm going to go in now, make some of those spirals while the paint's a little wet. I'm going to use white, so I have some white paint out here, and I'm going to use a liner brush. I do like my liner brushes a lot of times for detailed. See, that has that long tip. And what that is good for is loading up a nice bit of thin down paint, and you can do some beautiful brush strokes, grasses, lots of little things without having to reload your brush constantly. It really does give you a nice little a little while that you can actually paint. So I am going to thin my white down a little tiny bit. I'm going to try it first. If it looks like it's too white, I'll just add some blue to it. But let's just see how it mixes with what's on here. And when I say I'm doing spiral designs, I'm just kind of doing this. I'm just sort of placing the brush down and just doing a little bit of a spiral. See, it's kind of subtle. I want it just to sort of be blended into the background. That's a little bit, the paint is a little shiny, so it's hard to see till it dries. But that's all I'm going to do. And actually, you know what? I think I'm going to switch. I don't really need such a big, long stroke there. I'm going to switch to one of my, just a regular detail brush, I think. I don't want to have, I don't need to have that big tail trying to wind that around. When I do spirals, I can make big ones, little ones. I always start by just poking my brush down and just spiraling around. And I might do a few before I need to reload. And some, like I said, are very small. Some are bigger. This is very background-ish, subtle. If it doesn't show half of it, it's no worries. You don't want anything fancy. And I do sort of just go this way one time, that way another time. I don't think it matters. Because the paint is so wet, I am picking up a lot of blue, which is fine. But if I don't see it at all, I just kind of reload the brush. So that is just a little bit I'm doing for the background. I just like the way that looks. You may or may not like it, and you do not have to put it on. You're going to make this painting your own. If I find that the spirals start coming out really super white because the paint is dry, I will go ahead and add some blue to it. But for now, it's blending in with that wet paint. Just little spirals, because the whole whimsical theme to this painting is just lends itself to have this little decorative touch to it. Has anyone painted any Frida things? There's a lot of cool Frida paintings and ideas. I just, when I was in, I was out west somewhere, maybe New Mexico or somewhere, I bought a little trivet, a little ceramic trivet that had kind of a little funky Frida Mermaid on it. So it gave me the idea. I love painting mermaids and under the sea creatures and narwhals and octopus and all that, manatees, everything. So once when I was trying to design a new mermaid painting, I don't know, I just kind of recalled that little trivet, and it was kind of cool to have that design in my head. And again, I'm just going to go right down this canvas. And I know it's a big canvas. I know you might want to use, I think there's a smaller size. I get them at Michael's in the multi-packs. And like I said, I love the gallery wrapped canvas because you don't have to, really frame it. But you can still frame it if you like. Oh, Pam, you painted one for your granddaughter? What was she like? There's so many different ways to paint them: on rocks, out on the ocean, under the sea. So much fun. Great for this time of year. I'm not going to rush into my fall stuff too quick. But if you all have any idea at all about some fall ideas for paintings, I have designing my Christmas and winter paintings now. I just for the membership did, what are we doing this month? We're doing a school bus design, so school bus with some trees and leaves on the ground. But that might be different. You know, we have lots of fall ideas, but I haven't seen much with the little school bus or for something for back to school. We are painting, oh, the beach roses. That's going to come out today to the membership. It's kind of a misty day with just some beautiful, brilliant beach roses. This is our third painting. I usually have them all hanging around here. I will think of it. So anyways, it is fun. So it's the Tinker's Cardist Art Membership is my art membership. And like I said, we paint together. You get 4 pieces of content every month. We paint together live twice, and you receive 2 recordings twice a month. Oh, 8 by 20. That's a cool size, Pam. I like I said, I love the rectangles. I love to hang them this way and do seascapes, landscapes, all kinds of things. Oh, a train. Someone asked for a train. So I did a train painting. I'll grab them maybe and show you as we're going if we're waiting for something to dry. Or you will see them on my page. I do kind of do little glimpses into what we're doing in the membership. So it's a train. It's got fall trees, but a little snow on the ground. It could go either way. You could make it really a wintry painting if you want to just do more snow. I think it would be a fun painting to do with a night sky. It's the train just coming down the tracks. It's different, but I had some requests for it, and you know what? It's kind of nice to do some different paintings sometimes. I'm working on a really cute pony, a horse for next month. We got a peacock coming up. The variety's endless. And in the group, I do all sorts of subjects. We do still life, we do seascapes, landscapes, animals, realistic, whimsical, whatever I can think of. We just have a lot of fun, and sometimes we just hang out and practice like one-stroke florals or work on like different techniques for backgrounds, how to design your own paintings. Sometimes it's nice to have all of the patterns and the traces, but it's nice to be able to have your own designs, photographs that you took, reference bits, and paint what you want to paint. Every time I do a painting, I try to give you other ideas. You could paint it, like I said, like a night sky or a different color here, different there, add this or that. So I know a lot of you are familiar with what I do, but just for anybody that's new, I would love to answer any questions you might have. Like I said, I love to paint. I do a lot of plein air painting, which is painting outside on location. I was at a sunflower festival last week and did a painting that is actually hanging already in a shop, but I think I may do it in the membership. It really was a fun painting. So background's done. Okay, we've got the Calypso blue. We're going to let that dry. I did these little spirals, these little fun bits while it was still a little tacky. What we're going to do now is pretty much base coat all our colors. It's like color book painting. I will most times go from background, foreground, dark to light. She's a whimsical painting. If it was a landscape, we'll worry about more the dark to light. But what I'm going to do mostly is just fill in the colors of the objects. Then we're going to go back, shade a little bit, a little highlighting, outline with the Sharpie. So that is as simple as it will be. Let's see. Oh, Pam, isn't that great, though, that you could paint something for them? It's something they're going to treasure and always have. And unlike some little trinket you could have bought them, I love that they wanted the art. That's great. That's so fun to hear. So, all right. I have what I have colors. I have this warm beige I used for my flesh tone. I might mix with a little burnt sienna, which is that red brown. I've got black. Deep ochre, it's just a goldy color. I really like that for a lot of things. I use that deep ochre or yellow ochre a lot. I've got a metallic gold. I thought maybe for some of the bits, I don't think I did it on my original, but some of the bits that are this gold, we could put a little metallic since it's Frida. We could have some gold. I've got I like this pink a lot, and we can mix a pink. This is Joyful Pink, I think. But I usually make my own pinks just from red and white. I make my own maroons from red and black. I can't find a maroon in the craft paints at all that is as dark as I want and not have any white in it. A lot of them look chalky to me. So this would be a nice true maroon. But on top of the heart, I added a little bit of that pink. It just kind of was nice, and I will use that for her earrings and her flowers and her hair. But again, I like to tell you what we would do to mix. You wouldn't have to have that necessarily. You could mix a pink. Wouldn't be as bright, as brilliant as that one. And then this color I use a lot. It is buttermilk. I love this for sand. It's just a warm color. Sometimes you don't want a stark white. That's a nice warm color. So let's start basing in. I'm going to do her flesh tone. You can use whatever brush you're comfortable with, a little flat brush, a round brush. I'm going to start with the round, and because I can get a nice line around where I need to. So I'm going to move my palette over here. You can still see what I'm doing. I'm just going to take the warm beige that I have, and I'm going to just add a touch of the burnt sienna to it. And then to shade on the features, I am going to add just a touch more burnt sienna. Many times I will just blend on the palette as I go. If it's a landscape or a sky, and I kind of want it to be a little different in places, a little darker here, a little lighter there. But something like the flesh tone, we kind of want a standard flat color. We don't want to have it lighter or dark. So I am going to mix it pretty well on the palette here and have it ready to go. Pam, yeah, I do too. I love when people like to have handmade things. It's just the best. And I'm the same way too. Oh, Peggy, thank you. I love it when you guys will let your friends know that I'm here. If you have other crafters or painters or artists or just people who just want to enjoy watching, please let them know that I'm out here doing this, because that's how people find us, is we share with our friends. So all right. I did something wonky with her ear here. So I think when I traced it double. So I'm going to take that blue and kind of come in. I don't want to have her have a big alien ear on that side. And the flesh is light enough so that if I paint right over the features, I'm going to see them. And we are going to put those in outline them with a little Sharpie later, believe it or not. She's got these big eyebrows that we love, right? And this does look like it'll need a second coat. I can see as I'm putting it on, it's a little bit see-through. I will go around her eyes because I do want her eye to start with white. But other than that, I'm going to paint right over the tracing. And like I said, I can see through still, so I'm not going to worry. And I can even use my tracer as a guide as I'm painting. And if you ever lose your lines, and just let your paint dry, and you could go on and lay your tracing on there again, line it up and retrace it if you need to. So don't ever panic and think you can't get back to that. Maybe I'll go around her lips because those are going to be kind of dark. Oh, cool. Yeah, we did art camp. We had a summer camp on my page. We had a great week of painting all kinds of summer paintings. And yeah, that buttermilk will come in handy. Even Pam, if you, like I say, sometimes the white is just too cold. Even if you put a touch of it with your white and warmed it up a little for some things. So you'll find that comes in handy. And that's great if it was on sale. That's really good. You don't find you remember a while back, you'd get all those coupons from Michael's all the time. And now, it's pretty rare. Although I have to say at Joann's, which they have a good selection of paint, they oftentimes still have their 40% off coupons most weeks. So don't forget about Joann's, because you get some good bargains there. As a matter of fact, Liquitex has a nice set of the little tubes. So they're the heavy body, but their tubes are little. And it's a set of 48. It's actually got it over there, 48. And when they have a 50 or 60 or 40% off coupon, that's what I usually buy with it. It gives you an exposure to all the colors. And then you can find out what colors you like the best, and then you can just buy the bigger tubes of those. But it's nice to have the range of all the colors sometimes when you're painting. So I am, as you can see, not being super careful when I know I can see my lines through. I can come back afterwards and touch those up. I could probably use a bigger brush here, but I've got this one in my hand, so let me just kind of continue on with that. And I'm just going as best I can around there. So we've got this bit of flesh, then we've got her little bit of her arms and hands showing. I know hands are always difficult. People always panic about painting hands. We're going to make them pretty simple. So there, we're getting her filled in. And she's got all these bracelets on, so I still will paint kind of over them or around them so that we can have, they're not solid. You have a little skin tone showing through. So there's her hand, such as it is, a little bit there with the bracelets, and just the rest of her arm. So now, for instance, if there's a little boo-boo you ever need to touch something up, you can see how this flesh color is just not going to cover the blue. I know you can't really see this tiny little spot I'm working on. But what I do is if I need to touch something up, I will paint it in white. So right here on her edge of her elbow, I cut it in with the blue too much. So I'll just paint it a little bit with white. And when that dries and I go over it with my flesh color, it'll cover easily. So say you have a mistake or you've overshot the color or something, just paint it white a coat or two and then go over with your light shade, whatever it might be. Yeah, Pam, that buttermilk is great for sand. What I would do for sand, I would use some of this buttermilk, a little of that yellow ochre, and you get a nice shade for sand, and then I shade with that yellow ochre color a little bit, like someone's walked in the sand, and then I will mix that buttermilk even with white a little bit and put some highlights. It really is a great color for, I use it for all my beach scenes and my sand and things. So there. So that's all we have for skin tone here on Frida. Let me let that dry a little bit when I go up to the top and do her hair, which is going to be in black, which covers perfectly. So we'll put that in now and then work down into the second coat here. And just that dark black hair, we're just going to follow our pattern, but I've lost a little bit, but I just did it kind of as a little wavy kind of a look here. I'm going to go around the flowers because they are so light with the pink that we don't want to have to paint pink over the black. So just go around your little flowers. And if anybody else has just joined in, I see more people are joining. Welcome. We're painting Frida today. And if you give StreamYard permission, I will see your name when you comment. You only have to do that once. If you do it now and you come back and watch me on StreamYard again another time, you will not have to do that anymore. That is just a one-time thing. And I do like coming to you this way sometimes so that you can actually see what I'm painting. I do that in the membership. Sometimes when I'm doing my lives and different things, I will just do it with a one shot with the camera. So it's a little bit kind of a harder to follow. But when I'm doing any classes that are paid classes, I do a lot of one-off paid classes. Or like I said, in the membership, you can expect to get a better view there. And I'm always upside down here and there. If you are comfortable, you can paint it on an easel, of course, but I sometimes work flat so that you can see what I'm doing. If I'm out doing plein air, I'm doing a big painting out, of course, be on an easel so that you can step back often and look at what you're doing. Good. Hey, Sandy, welcome. Hey, I see Facebook user better late than never, but I'm not sure who it is, so let me know. And I don't know if it's Linda or Charlotte. I have my regulars that always tune in. See how well that black covers? It's great, so we don't have to do much more on her hair. I do have to touch up that blue behind my ear, though, remember. So I'll just grab a little of that blue if we have any, which I pretty much used it all. So let me give a little bit of a bit there. And that's what's great about the acrylics. You touch up, fix, go over things. I have to fix it so she doesn't have Spock ears. We don't want that. And quick little second coat where it needs it of the flesh tone. And we'll do a little shading and highlighting on this. She's like I said, a little bit of a whimsical, not really cartoony, but I do still will shade a little bit on her face and on the heart and wings. Her hair, all I did is put a little bit of blue lines, like little highlights, and is because if I am ever highlighting on black, I use light blue. If I'm painting an animal and it has black fur or whatever, hair, whatever, I don't use light gray or white because it will just make them look old. Even on an animal, you paint a cute little pet portrait and it's a cute little puppy that's black, and you start with the white turning into a gray to highlight, it just makes it look old. I like using a light blue. Really just gives it a little oomph to it. So yeah. So I'm just quickly, I'm not going to worry about going real close to everything. I'm just getting in my second coat. And I know you think, oh, look at all that detail on the tail. But like I said, we're going to do the Sharpie thing, and it makes it easier. I'll show you that. So sometimes I'll take a painting. I have a painting, and it's actually on YouTube. It's a free class. It's a lighthouse, and I think if you just search lighthouse or Sharpie or something, I take the tracing and start from the tracing, just trace on in black Sharpie, and then I fill in things. This one I'm doing a little different. I'm going to let it dry and then put a little Sharpie outline. I have put my hand in it like I do and got my flash. You can't see it on the camera all over here, but again, we can touch it up. It's super easy. If you have a little mistake like that and you notice it while the paint is wet, I just take a nice clean brush with some clean water and I scoop it off. But if it's dried, you can just paint over it with the color. So do not fret, don't get upset, just enjoy your painting time without worrying about a lot of little extra things that are not going to really be a factor. Okay, so that is a good enough coat there. I think I will, while I'm thinking of it, grab a little blue because I have it out, and I am just covering up where I have put my little wrist with my flesh color paint on it. And sometimes these things look so much like a big disaster to you because you're so close to your painting. But remember, no one's going to be this close. So step back often and look at your painting and judge it from a distance. Sometimes judge it from, leave it alone for a day or so, or the next morning come and look at it, and you'll be surprised how much better it looks. When you're so close to this, you see every little detail. Pam, this, I think we did do this in the membership at one time. I think we did. If you search Frida in there, sometimes I'll pull some of those membership paintings out and do them as a class or a little thing like this so people get an idea of how it is that I work and see if I'm a fit for how they might want to work. Okay, let's just fill in stuff. So I'm going to take a flat brush for those wings, and that's going to be that buttermilk color. And if you look close at the photo, if you have the photo handy, you'll see that it's a little lighter on the edge, a little shaded near the heart, and I still just start with the base coat of the color, and then we put the shading and the highlighting on. And I have a couple of different ways I do that, which I show you as I go. Sometimes I do wet and wet with some shadows and highlights. Hey, Michelle, thank you. I know we love our Frida things. I think we both have the Frida t-shirt, which we love. So yeah, so I am going to put this color on, and then I'll show you how I can shade it. And that's how you give things form. Even if it's a whimsical, fun little thing like this, not like a realistic painting, you still want some shadows and highlights to create form because you want it to look like it's three-dimensional. There are some instances where you're doing like a cartoony kind of thing. You might need that, but I always like to give a little bit of extra to my work, whether it's a simple thing like this. Still want to give it a little decorative touch, a little dark and light. One more extra little dot or dash or sprinkle or glitter or something. I love my flat brushes because I can fill in all this area with a nice broad stroke. I can get the edges if I want. I can get a chisel edge, a thin line. The flats are very versatile. I like them a lot. The filberts, which are the rounded edges, I liked for flowers and things. We'll probably use that too at some point. And so there is what we are using with the buttermilk. Now, I'm going to let it dry a tiny bit before I go ahead and add the white on the edges and whatnot. I want it just to be a little drier. So I'm going to go ahead and fill in the heart now. So I am going to I'm going to start it like a very dark maroon around the edge, get lighter in the middle, and it makes it look puffed out. So I'm going to simply make my own maroon. Like I told you, I like to make my own maroon. I cannot really get a maroon I like in the craft paints. A little bit of black into the red. And I want to just do the edge of the heart in that dark color. Now here I might want to do a wet and wet blend. But the paint does dry kind of fast sometimes. And so I'm going to show you, I'll get it on there, and if it's dried, I might lay a little more of it on. I just want to have it, when I put the lighter pink in the middle, I want it to blend in with this dark easily. And it does it easily if we have if we're working wet and wet. So this is just around the edge pretty much. Probably around her hands because there'll be a little shadow that her hands would cast. So let's just get that there. And again, I'm always upside down every which way. And this could be certainly done with a round brush too. It's whatever you are comfortable working with. Hey, good morning, Katie. Welcome. Yeah, Michelle, I thought maybe you had. You haven't painted her yet. I actually have somebody that wants to buy the Frida painting. I have one in a shop somewhere, but the other one, I didn't have another one, but I thought this is perfect. I will do this class and then I will have a buyer for the painting. So you can see I have my dark around the edge. How I'm going to blend that now is I'm going to wipe off that brush. I don't want that dark red on there anymore, but I can use the same brush. I don't have to wash it out. I'll take some of that pink. And what I want to do is mix this wet pink into this wet dark. But I'm going to go and just put that in the middle. And can you see I'm shying away from the edge a little bit, right? I'm leaving a little bit of a white buffer here because when I start blending it, I don't want to bring too much of that dark into the center. I want this to stay light. So I'm always wiping off. I'm just using the dirty brush, but I'm wiping it off. And now I'm going to try blending the pink into the dark, almost just using part of the brush and the pink. I'm almost putting the brush down half and half. I don't want to take this and bring it way into the center. I want to stay from this little outline in. So I am just going to go along, and because the paint is wet and wet, look at it, it's almost blending it by itself. But you pick up paint, you pick up a little bit of the dark, you don't want it to get into the light. I'm always wiping off my brush and just using that dry brush as the blender. So I'll blend that as much as I can. If I find like I'm picking up too much paint, just dry it off, and I work all the way around. If I get too much dark, like I said, then I'll wipe it off. But the paint is actually drying now, so I'm going to grab myself a little more of the pink, put it in here so I have some wet paint to play with. Dry that off when I can, and just soften that. So you can see already it's starting to look a little bit three-dimensional, right? And my brush is pretty dry, so I'm just using that nice dry brush to sort of feather it and soften it. And then I look at it and I say, okay, it's a little dark, it's a little light, whatever. I can just take strictly just the pink now in the middle. If I think it's a little bit too dark in a place, like say this little corner is too dark, just put a little pink on top of there. Get that heart shaped back a little bit. See how that's a wet and wet blend. That's how you can get your highlights and your shadows wet and wet. Sometimes it's dry and you can't do that. Then I'll use a wash. I'll show you that. And now I'm going to make a little bit of light in the center even. A little bit of white paint into that pink. I don't want it to go straight white, but I want to get a little lighter. Don't want too much paint in the brush, so sometimes I'll just pat it off. Now in the very middle, I just want to have it a little brighter. And I like to see the brush stroke, so I don't have to blend it very much unless I want to. If you would like, you just keep drying off your brush and finessing it, and you will get a really nice, soft, subtle blend. But I like to see my brush stroke, so sometimes I will just go like this. Leave it. I like the brush strokes. Hey, Lisa Marie, thank you. Thank you. If I did this in the membership before you joined, no worries, because when you join, you have access to everything I've done for the last 2 years. So you just need to be in the Mighty Networks platform, on the website where we have our membership. And on the top where the featured things are, there is a index of all of the paintings I've done for 2 years, month by month. Look at the name of the painting and just put it in the search bar and you will find it. And if you can't find something, certainly just let me know. But if you just went into the search bar and put Frida, you'd find it. Or if you wanted to paint a raccoon or an animal, just put those search terms into that search bar. The search bar on the Mighty Networks membership, I kind of like to say it's sort of like folders almost. If you click in the search bar without even typing anything, all of a sudden, all the hashtags come up. Hashtags are really topics. So what comes up is the most recent month, the index, and then I put in by category. So animals, florals, seascapes, landscapes. But you can use any search term too. So if you can't find something, let me know, because you have access to everything, which is the way I want it, because I don't want, you shouldn't just say, okay, I'm going to paint this month and I have to paint those 4 paintings, but I don't like 2 of them. I'm not giving you a bunch of paintings because I want you to paint them all. I'm giving you more paintings than you probably can ever paint, so that you can choose what you like. You like to paint animals. You like to paint still lifes. You feel like painting something this month. It's not like you have to do them all. I want to give you enough so you can pick and choose. So, hey, Sandy, thank you. So I know that sometimes it's people have a little hard time finding things, but the little search bar at the top is where you can find everything. And I do keep that index pinned to the featured section as well. When you sign into the main page, you should see it across the top as the first thing, first thing, I believe, and the second thing will be the current monthly content that we're doing. So since I've got a little pink going here, let me take my pink here. And why don't I just paint her little earrings? Now, these are fun little earrings. You could do whatever you want. You could make, if you have fun earrings you want to copy yourself, you want to just do shapes. I did them as little flowers. So I am just blobbing on some little pink, kind of just little blobby shapes that are going to read as flowers afterwards. And I think I just did it as a little round ball on her ear. So it's like a little earring there, and then these little guys. And I think I did her lips pink too. So I think since it's on my brush, I try to accommodate, what's the word? If I'm doing one thing with the color, use it wherever I can. And I'm just going to paint her little lips in. She has great lips. So the whites of her eyes, even though this white canvas is showing through, we are going to paint them white. And then we'll add the pupil and the iris in there, but we do start with white. So anything on your canvas, if it is white sometime, you still need to paint it with the paint. And we've got these flowers up in her hair too. Hey, Patty. Oh, you've been on vacation. Where have you been? It is that time of year. I'm up in Maine, like I say, and we are all in vacation land here. So people are all now thinking, oh, school's going to start, and we got to get our vacations in. So it's been super busy. There we are. So there's that in. Don't think we need second coats on that stuff. Heart looks good. Her little, oh, I have one more pink flower on her necklace. So let's do that before we move on. And the middle is going to be that gold, so it will cover this. If it was yellow, it would be tough, but the gold will cover. And that gold is, like I said, the yellow ochre, or it's deep ochre is one of the colors. It's just a nice shade. This one is deep, I believe, deep ochre. Just a nice goldy color, not metallic, but it's a great base if you want to do a metallic gold. Sometimes the metallic golds are a little translucent and you go to put them on, you need a bunch of coats. Do it in this ochre or a yellow first, and then you will be set. It's it's an easier way to get that gold to show up. I think I may have done this as a little outline with the Sharpie first. So I'm going to leave this part because I think it's easier to pick a little Sharpie, little balls for the necklace, and then pop this color in the middle. So let's let that dry a little bit, and I'm going to do that because that will be easier. I am going to get the whites of her eyes in. So you can see what I'm doing. I'm just sort of painting in all of the colors and adding details sometimes as I go, or sometimes we'll come back and, add little bits of highlights and whatnot. I'm mostly working top to bottom so I don't put my hand in there. I think that's what I'm really doing. Okay. So, yeah, I'm going to let that go, and I'm going to paint in the green to get it dry, and then we're going to start with the Sharpie and then adding the bits, and we can do our shading in here too. But you can use a nice big brush, whatever works. That's the one color I didn't get out. So I used a green for her tail. You can use whatever green you have that you like. I've got a nice bright green here. I think I'll use that. Sometimes I don't, for landscapes and things, I don't want that bright Kelly green. It's not really natural looking. But for this painting, which is a fun, colorful, whimsical painting, we can do whatever we want. So, oh, Destin, Patty, did you tell me that? Because I was in Destin with Lisa Marie and Michelle in January, and we've been, I know I talk about Destin a little bit when we were on. What a beautiful, I think we did talk about it, Patty. What a beautiful spot. Oh my God, I just can't wait to go back. It is gorgeous. I'm going to put this on and let it dry, and then we'll start the Sharpie bit. This might take 2 coats. You can see how streaky it is there. I might take a little bit of a dark green and mix it with it as I'm going, though. Not necessarily a shadow, but just so that it's, you know, the mermaid tails are a little shimmery, lighter and dark. I might throw a little bit of a nice phthalo green in here as I'm going. But let me get a coat on here quickly of the green so I have a nice wet base to throw some of that dark green on. And again, I've done the mermaid tails kind of a teal color sometimes too. Does not have to always be what you think it should be. If you think it should be green, it doesn't always have to be. You could use, I use like blue shades, blue and green, whatever it is that you like. And did you see on the top of the comments there is the link to the tracers if you would like. I have a tracer for this canvas here, the horizontal, but I also have 11 by 14 because that is a little bit more standard size for everybody. If you ever want a particular size tracer, let me know. I can make it super simple. So if you want something a little bit different, I can be happy to do it. I'm going to let my dog go. Hang on one second. I hear her fussing. Do you want me to take her out? All right. Come on, then say hello first, and then you can go out. Come here. Come on. Come here, come here. Sometimes you guys see the big Irish wolfhound, but here's the little 11-pound dachshund just to have a little break. Say hello, and then you can go out. Here she is. Oh, get in the camera. Can you see? She's 16, this little Spitfire, and she's been beeping inside, so she's going to go out. Okay, go on. Go on. Go out. Go on. Okay, a little doggy break. Now I got a messy face. And the big one's coming. She might come and say hello. Then you can see the both of them. So here we go to do the rest of the green. I think we can still be painting summer and mermaid and under the sea, right? I think so. Man, you can come say hello. Come on. Come and say hi too. So we have the little tiny 11-pounder. And can you put your head over here? Come on. Come here. Can you see her? Can you see her little head? Hey. Hey. It's hard with this tiny bit of the screen that if we had the whole thing, you'd see her. She's 150 pounds. You can't miss her. Hey. What are you doing? Can you come over here? Can you come over here? Can you put your head up here? Can you give me a kiss? People can see your face. Well, she's an Irish wolfhound, Maisie. There you are. Put a little head. Oh, you got a nose? You got a nose. Of course, they want to be where I am. You've helped painting. I have a picture of her on my page with paint all in her beard. Oh, the wolfhound is the big one is an Irish wolfhound. The little one is a dachshund. She's 4 and the little one's 16. Okay, so now that phthalo green I was telling you about, I really love the Liquitex, the phthalo green, the phthalo blue. It is a very bluish green, but kind of nice for this sort of thing. So I'm going to put that in. A lot of times I'll tone it down a bit, but I'm going to just take it on my brush and just kind of put it on here and there. It's still wet paint up here. And this will kind of make it so I don't have to really put 2 coats of that light green. Look at it, just kind of dabbing it on, giving it a little bit of a scaly look maybe. Now this little bit of her tail is on top of her body. So it does give me the opportunity to give a shadow behind. And look at how it already is making that tail stand out, right? But I'm going to blend it a little bit. So I'm just going to blend it a little bit. Add some of that on here. And this is where we're going to do all those little bits of scales and things. But for the fin part, I'm just going to take and use it, my chisel edge. Just follow that shape. So that's just giving that little illusion that that's the fin. And like I said, we have details to put on top of this. And then I will, I think I might take some bright yellow to that. Let's see. I don't know if I did that on my original one, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to just take some yellow. I've got this. I do love the primary yellow for Liquitex as well for mixing. This mixed with that phthalo green makes beautiful shades of green. And I might just kind of, oh, and you know what? It does, you can't see it on camera as well, but this primary yellow is a translucent color. But if I go over something as like a little glaze with it, boy, it just brightens it up. And I can see that here, even mixing it in and not just going over the dry paint. I don't know if it transfers over to the camera as well, but I'm just kind of brushing that in here and there. And I'm going to hit this with the hairdryer before I try to paint the with the Sharpie. But you know what we can do while we're waiting is we will just put that little bit of highlight in her hair. I'm going to go right and use that blue that we used for, oh, hi, Gail. Nice to see you. Oh, Pam. Oh, okay. Care packages is great to send home. And there's plenty of time to paint this. Like I said, it's nice to come back and paint it at your own pace. So I'm taking that blue. And just because the hair is kind of like a black hole, but again, I don't want to go and highlight it with white because it will just look like she's got gray hair. So I'm going to take just some blue, little fine liner brush. Just slow down. I talk too fast. I know it. Sorry. And just a few little squiggles up here in her hair. And it looks white there on camera, but it is blue. So in person, it does look blue. And it doesn't have to be much. It's just, I like the squiggly look of it. And there. Simple as that. Now, I'm going to hit it with the hairdryer. I'm going to mute it so you don't have to listen to that noise because this is still a little wet where the little necklace was. It's a little thick. And this. And then I can go right to town with the Sharpie. Well, I'm going to shade this first and highlight. But let me do the drying. And I'll let you talk amongst yourselves because I'm going to just mute it for a second. Really handy to have a hairdryer or a heat gun handy sometimes just to speed up. I'm sort of impatient sometimes, but when we're on painting like this, I hate to, have to have you wait. Like I said, watch paint dry. And Pam, when you paint it, share it. I love it when you guys share your work. It doesn't have to be something that I've taught you. It could be anything at all that you're working on, even not necessarily a art project. It could be crafts or whatever you're working. I love to see everybody's things. So, okay. Very dark eyes. She has those big eyebrows. Let me do a little work with the Sharpie. Like I said, I'm being super careful of having everything dry. And sometimes it's fun in like doodling and you're putting your little lines in and then just adding some color. But I do have to shade and highlight that. But let's do up here first. So these, the little roses, actually, you know what? I have some little leaves to put in there. So let's just skip down here. So her eyebrows, I do them with the Sharpie or a paint marker if you have it. She's got these thick eyebrows, but I don't want to make them like big, heavy blobs. I might need a better Sharpie. This one looked so promising, but it looks like it's kind of dried up. So hang on, I got a bazillion Sharpies around. I just do it like some little lines, kind of. I know that's hard to see, but see how it's not just a big thick eyebrow? I'm doing it as little lines like this because I want it to be that thick eyebrow that you associate with Frida, but I don't want it to look like Groucho Marx either. So I'm just doing these little lines and getting a little thinner, and I know sometimes you see him as a unibrow. I kind of don't do that, but you can do whatever you want. I put a little line there. Okay, and even on her eyes, I just follow your pattern. You can see the lines through on the skin tone. I did these little for her eyelids here, and I outline just the almond shape of her eye, Then we're going to put some nice dark eyes in there. And usually it's the pupil and the iris, but her eyes are so almost black, I don't think we need to. I think it'll just be a very dark color. I did a very simple little line for the nose. I don't want to get too involved with the nose, nostrils, and all. I just did a little bit like that. I did very lightly outline her lips. You might want to use a finer liner or a thin brush. I don't want it to be a big, heavy look like it's outlined. I just did a little bit of the shape of her lip across there. And I go outside on her ear a little bit. Now, I'm going kind of light with the Sharpie, and I'm sometimes just stopping and starting. So instead of, like if I'm doing her ear, I'm not doing this and have a nice big outline. I'm kind of going a little bit stop, start, you know, just a little lighter like that. And I do around her edge. So let's just get her face here. And if you don't like the look of the outline, you don't have to do that either. And actually, her hair came down a little bit here. And her neck, shoulders. And then I'm going to outline this bit, and then I'm going to go and highlight with the paint for her wings and shade. I did get a little bit, I didn't outline the flower either whole. I kind of stopped and start and just got those little squiggles. And same with her earrings. I just did this little. And when I'm doing it, I'm not worrying about doing it exact. I have little blue showing, a little white. I like it to have kind of a loose look so that you're not like a slave to trying to get it right to every bit. You can see I just made the shape and so that there's blue in there. It doesn't matter. I give a little bit of a center there, little centers, and I'm going to pop in some of the gold after. And what I meant on the necklace, which I should have done on this first, is just outline it. It's going to make it easy. And then you just pop in a little of the gold color in the middle. I'm not following my lines here. I am just making a little series of circles. Not perfect, not the same size. I'm not worrying. And I should have done that maybe here to start. So let's just do that around. And I think I will put a little metallic gold on these after. Okay. I am going to also paint this in and then do the Sharpie over it. But let's go ahead and get her little hand so you can see through the paint a little bit. I'm just kind of doing the fingers, and they don't look perfectly realistic, so I'm not worried about that. This is, like I said, a whimsical kind of a fun painting. And I'm going to draw on her bracelets and then put a little paint. So these are kind of like little bangles. So I'm just doing a little series of bangles here. I might have to fill in a little blue there. Over here, I did kind of like a little beaded bracelet that goes like with the necklace. A couple of bangles, maybe. I'll do this. The jewelry was really fun. So for the highlighting and shading on that little bit of a wing, which this will show you how to kind of do a wing of any sort. You could do like an angel wing or something using this idea. Let me just take a little bit of a, let's see, a flat brush. I think will do it. I'm going to use that deep ochre color here. I think it's a little dark, so I'm going to mix it with the color the wing is, just to lighten that up a little bit. So it's a shadow. Where would the shadow be? Behind the heart. The heart's in front. So I am going to make it just a little darker behind there, but I want to bring it out. And I want to soften it. So I'm going to quickly get it on there. And then I'm going to clean off my brush, and I'm going to use that same color we used for the wing just to soften it a little bit. We are having overcast. It was supposed to, the week looked like up here in the Maine coast looked gorgeous except for Tuesday. Now it's overcast today, rain later, 90% rain tomorrow. Wednesday looks good. Thursday, overcast. Friday, good. So it's funny how I shouldn't even look because it changes so much. So just like we used our brush on top of both of the dark and light on the heart, I've just got my brush loaded with the buttermilk, and I'm just softening it in because I just want this to look like a little shadow behind there. Just like that. And I like that texture for a wing. Whether it's a little butterfly wing, an angel wing, I just like that little texture. So it's just slightly darker behind the heart. But on the tips, I want it to be brighter. I don't need to wash my brush. I'm going to just wipe off that little bit of buttermilk. I'm going to take my flat brush. See how I'm going to scoop up some of that white, but just kind of on half of the brush? There. Now, I don't want to go onto the wing with all that glob of paint on there, so I use it on the half of the brush, but I just pat it off a little so it's not such a thick bit of paint. And I'm going to go right along that edge and get a nice light bit on the edge. I'm noticing I am making this this wing a little bit different shape than the actual sample I did. But just go along. And because the buttermilk and the white is so close in color, you don't really have to hardly blend. And again, I know it's because of the glare on it, it's hard to see, but it's nice to, if it's two colors that are very similar, you really don't have to worry about blending too much. It sort of blends by itself. So I've taken a little more on there, and I just go along the tips of this wing. And like I said, it really blends almost by itself. If it kind of blends in and you don't see it anymore, you can go back over it with some more white. But that's what I wanted to do for the shadow there and the highlight on the tip. And now I'm going to paint in those that little border around the heart. I'm going to do that with the straight deep ochre color. Because it's been sitting out, you notice I take a little bit of water and just thin it down a little bit so that it goes smoothly for me. You can follow your pattern or simply just make this little, see that little, what is it, like little bumps, little ovals right around. It's going to blend a little bit here with our shadow, but we are going to go around after with the Sharpie to separate that. So just paint that in. And if you like the little incorporating the Sharpie, like I said, look on YouTube. I do have a lighthouse done in the Sharpie technique. And I think if you Google lighthouse or Sharpie, you might find that easy enough. I do have a number of free classes over on YouTube if you want to go over there and subscribe to my channel. I also offer, like I said, the membership and also some one-off paid classes. Actually, this week I'm doing that Misty Garden painting. It's for the membership, but we had an audio issue, so I'm painting it again. But I thought, you know what, I'll do it as a one-off class if somebody wanted to take just that class. That's Thursday afternoon. And you can find all this information out on my page or by sending me a message. I can pull those paintings out and show them to you too in a second, but I just want to get going on this. We're doing pretty good. We've only been going about an hour, and that brings me to my other subject I like to talk to you guys about. Is I know so many people want to paint and get started painting, and the biggest hold up is not having time. I mean, none of us have time, right? We always are busy, but when you see these quick little tutorials and little classes, look how much you get done in like an hour even. So you can always just set aside a little bit of time, 20 minutes a day, 25 minutes, just to sit down, create, do a little bit, something artsy. And number one, it's so good for you. And then you feel like a sense of accomplishment. You're really putting in a little time to create. So there, I've got that little bit. I go around after with just the Sharpie, like I said, and maybe some white highlights. Now, this is dry, so the easy way to do the little tail, because it does look like detailed, but it's kind of fun and not as detailed as you think. Figure out which of my Sharpies was working well. When I do something like this, I'm going to start down here and work up so that the scales all fall correctly. But let's just do this bit first. So I'm just going to kind of outline the fin part. And then I'm just going to do like lines like this for that. And then I'm going to start like this because I want the scales to build. So down here, it's kind of like maybe one scale. And then it's just going to be layering them on top. Do not worry too much about getting them exact, but I do try to. Can you see how I kind of, if the scales are meeting here, then I try to get one on top of it so it's not all on the same, like you wouldn't want this one here like this, then it just looks the same all the way up. So I just kind of eyeball it and try to get it so that a scale is kind of coming right on top of where the two meet there. Hey, Deb. Oh, good. Yeah, the replay will be around. I will upload it to YouTube. It'll be on YouTube. I'm streaming to YouTube Live too, so you can find it immediately on YouTube. And you have to be careful here because you've got this turn. So if you do them like this, you're going to be straight across. So see how I start now, just exaggerating the size, trying to make that corner a little bit. And there's going to be little doodads and dots and roses in there, so no one's going to look at it and expect it to be perfect. So just go along and make your scales. You know what helps sometimes is to go right about here and make them. And that kind of gets you to turn the corner without doing too straight. So if you kind of do this in the middle, you're going to kind of get that so it turns. And then when you get to the straight way up here, it's pretty easy. So maybe I'll go here now and then go in the middle to work on getting it around the corner, if that makes sense. Okay, and then here it's just kind of working your way up. Makes it a lot easier than trying to paint in all the tiny details. And we're going to go right across here. That one kind of got to be looking like a little bit of a wave, but we'll just kind of go back and get back on track a little bit. There we go. All right. So, oh, we need to give her eyes. She's looking a little zombie-like. She's like the Walking Dead Frida. Let's get a dark brown. So I'm taking my burnt sienna, which is that red brown. Just mix it with black. You almost get like a burnt umber. A little more black. We'll get it nice and dark how we want it. And they're just going to be your eyes here. So, and they really work when they're a really dark, dark brown. Oh, that one's a little bit too brown. It needs a little more black in there. We still want a little highlight. That's what makes the eyes. A little highlight, which simply could just be a little dot of white, upper, like 2 o'clock, say. You could do them anywhere, but make sure they're the same. Do like 11 o'clock and 11 o'clock, or 2 o'clock and 2 o'clock. Not like 11 o'clock and 2 o'clock, and then you'd have Marty Feldman Frida. So we don't want that. Oh, yes, yes. I love the Sharpie technique, too. I've been doing that a little bit, and it is kind of fun because you can get so many techniques, but also the Posca. I do love the Posca markers because you actually have paint in there. So that's a good technique, too. And I noticed now they have the wider tip, a fine tip, but they also have a brush tip with paint. So those are kind of handy for if you ever want to try those. Those are really fun, too. Okay, now let's just go back to the top and work down doing our details. We need to put some leaves on these flowers. I usually would use a small flat brush. You can use, I have this in my hand, so I'll use it, but I'm going to just get some green back. And I'm just going to make a few leaves. That's coming up pretty dark, so I know to add a little yellow to that. Just a few leaves. I'm just poking them here and there, coming out of that little bit on her head. I'm going to grab a little tiny bit of white with my brush because watch, that will just make it show up that much better. I'm taking a little white, just putting it right on top of the wet green leaf there. Just what shows up from the background in that black hair. Flowers, I'm just going to go ahead with some white again, maybe some light pink, some white. These aren't going to be like individual little perfectly realistic flowers. We're doing more of a little whimsical thing. So let's just take and just do some little petals that we're just sort of accenting with some pink and white. And same down here, even for her little earrings, just kind of go and make a little bit of white. I might do just a little dab on her little ball on her little round earring part there. And same thing for this. I don't know what it is lately. I don't know if it's where I'm working back here in my studio, but my eyes start burning and my nose starts running. So there's something growing back here that's setting me off. And I never used to have allergies, but lately I do. So it's kind of weird. Anyway, I'm going to go. And the white, I'm using kind of a white. It's a little thin down, so it sort of fades into the pink a little bit. So once it dries, I like to go back even with just maybe a little bit of a highlight here and then that's a little brighter. So we've almost got a couple of shades, a little bit of pink, a little bit of white. And we're going to just dip. I could take this brush and dip right into, again, I'm spreading the paint with my wrist here. I can dip right into this yellow color, the deep ochre, and just put a little bit of center into my flowers there. And this is also how I do this little necklace. Instead of painting these little circles in like I started to do. Oh, Pam, there aren't right here, but we did have the Canadian fires. We could have see and smell the smoke a little bit coming down. But it's just weird. It didn't bother me all day till I'm actually sitting back here in this little section of my porch where I'm working. So very weird. And these little circles you put on with your Sharpie, you only have to take your brush and just dab in the color. It makes it so much easier than forming little circles. And I am going to come back to all of this maybe after and put a little bit of that metallic gold on. I think it would be fun. I know it's hard to see kind of far away, but I'm just popping it in there. You can see it's loose and whimsical, but from a distance or on the camera, it does not look that way. So it's a nice way to do things. We are going to outline the wings with the Sharpie. Oh, and we have her bracelets and things. So let's do that. I did a little bit of pink in the circles of this bracelet here. I'm just popping in. I'm hardly forming a circle. I'm just kind of wiggling the brush in there. And then we're going to do some yellow bracelets with, again, that deep ochre. If we tried to do it with our primary yellow, you would need a million coats and it still wouldn't show. But you would paint it white first and then you could get that bright yellow. But I like this shade, especially if we are going to go and put on some metallic gold after. So, and can you see how quick I'm doing it? I'm not a slave to, let me see my Sharpie lines there, and I have to get in between. I'm just popping it on kind of loose, kind of rough. And I do give a little white highlight to these that little scallop. That's the word I was trying to think of before, scallop. Oh, Pam, yeah, we were getting a lot of the Canadian wildfires, like I say, but I don't know if it was like wherever I go in my yard, I would think so, but it just seems to be like in this little section of my porch. Weird. So I am going to outline this with my Sharpie, but I am going to give it a little bit of these little white strokes in here. You can do this now or after. It doesn't really matter. But see, doesn't it just brighten it up a little bit? From a distance, you don't see the scallop so much, but a little white lines. And then I'll do the Sharpie afterwards. Alrighty. So I actually did some dots on some of the scales, some stripes on some, and then some of the little roses. And I really kind of randomly did it. It's not in a pattern that we are copying exactly. Yes, I think that's right, Pam. It wasn't way over to where you guys are. So for the little dots, remember, you can use a toothpick, a stylus. I'm going to use the back end of my brush, if I can find my pink paint again, because it seemed like it's just the right size. A little fresh paint, back end of my brush. And, oh, I did it actually in blue. That's going to be for my flowers. So a little bit of the blue. And I am just going to randomly put them on. But you know what? I know you can't see that. The blue is very close to the green. So I think I must have mixed some white with it. So let's mix up a little bit lighter shade. And again, it's all trial and error sometimes, even for myself. I don't know how it's going to work till I put things on. So you can adjust on the fly as you go. And now we'll just put that, and you'll see a difference here now. So I'll probably just pick up some of that light. Can you see that now? A little more you can. And again, I didn't like count or too much. I'm going to just randomly put them here and there. I just want a little pattern of something on the scale, so they're just not so blah, but I am not being too particular. I think I have way more scales on this one than my original. I do. This is crazy. Like, you don't have to put so many scales. Every time I paint something, it's different. And like I said, that's why when you are painting, don't say, oh, it doesn't look like yours. This doesn't look like mine either. So we'll just go with it. You could even just do little dots like this in various scales and call it a day. But I've got some dots here and there. And then I did some little lines, and I'm going to use that same little detail brush, and I'm going to go into my deep ochre and a little water because it's been sitting. If it's a detail thing, I want the paint to flow like ink, not really like heavy paint. And that's a reason sometimes when you think, oh, I can't paint a straight line or a thin line, might not be that you can't do that. It could be the brush, the paint consistency, all that. Have a nice brush with a thin point, and then thin the paint down. When your paint is thinned down, you can get a nice long stroke. If your paint is super thick and been sitting there all day and I go to try to do it, I have to press it down and try to get the paint off the brush, and there's no way to get it. So it's just a matter of a nice brush with a tip and the right consistency. So don't always think, oh, I just can't paint a thin line. You could if you just had the right thin down paint and the right little liner brush or something. Okay, so here and there I am just taking and making some little lines with the ochre, and then I'll go back and add some little light colors to that. But I am not going to think about this. I'm not going to say, okay, I did one here, so I should do one there. I am just going to skip around. You can always go back if you feel like you missed a place. And I randomly made up this little pattern. I just did some roses and some stripes and some dots. You could do whatever you like. You could do little star shapes, little hearts. Hearts would be adorable, actually, in this tail. I might have to do some little hearts, and I'll show you. I think I will. I'm going to do hearts instead of flowers. If you want to do the little rosettes like I have in my sample, you're just doing exactly what we did for the earrings and whatnot. A little scallopy shape of pink. But I'm going to do some pink hearts because I think hearts are going to carry that part of the design down nicely. So let's just get some little lines here and there. And then we're going to put some nice pink hearts in here and there. When I do these little lines, I did them all with just the yellow ochre, but then I'm going to just grab a little white and maybe throw a little white on top of them a little bit. Again, I'm not worried about straight, perfect lines. I want a little pattern of sorts there. And that just gives it a little something. And let me show you a really simple way to paint hearts. You could use this for anything. It's so cool. No, it's not, Pam. So practice a course. If you're on a canvas, of course, remember you get that rough surface sometimes, but a nice brush with a good tip, not one of those frayed out ones. And try just different consistencies with adding a little bit of water. And another trick is if you're trying to do a straight line, it's weird to describe, but it works. And I learned this in high school for drawing. Look ahead of where your brush is going. So if I'm doing a line here, and if I was looking at my brush here, it's going to get kind of wiggly. I'm going to be painting here, but looking here. So I'm going to look ahead to where I'm going, and I'm going to get a nice straight line that way. It's amazing how it works. Just look ahead of where you want the brush to go, not actually where the brush is going. Give it a try. Let me know if it works for you too. Little hearts. If you want them a little bigger, you could use a little bit bigger square brush and just 2 strokes. I'm going to do it with the little round brush because it's in my hand. I'm going to get pink. I already know from my blue that the pink might not show up as well, so I'm going to add a little white in and get a little lighter shade. And simply, this is the 2 strokes. I'm going to press and press, and I'm going to make a little heart shape. Just press and press. And like I said, if you were doing something bigger and you wanted a fancier thing, you could do it even with a little big flat brush. Press and press. You can get some heart shapes that way. But I would use the little brush that you happen to have right there. Keep your paint again a little thin down and add a little white so that we can actually see them. And I'm just going to go in, and I like the hearts. I didn't think of the hearts when I started. And as few or as many as you want. And when you start running out of paint, just grab a little more. What do you think? Who likes the hearts? You can do hearts and little flowers if you want. You know why? because you're the boss of your painting and you can do whatever you want. Now, I'm going to tip this a little bit because I want the hearts to be going the right direction. So I'm working my tail around here. And I'm going to do it this way. If your hearts aren't showing up, a little more white, or you could do them first like I did, and then come back with just some white like we did for those lines, and you could just give a little white highlight here and there. You know, you could just give it a little white on there as a little highlight. I like the hearts on this one. But like I said, you can do whatever you like. You can look at the picture. I just am using my iPad because I don't have an actual sample. I'm using the picture. But if you go ahead and look at the picture I had, and there's also a nice picture of it in the tracer folder. So if you go to Dropbox with the link above, inside that folder is also the color palette of what I used and a nice picture of the finished one. Yeah, I like the hearts too. So let's get back to the Sharpie bit. And we're just going to outline our wing there. I'm just doing the outside edge. I guess I forgot to outline this part of her arm. Oh, I did put a few little lines coming out here. Not heavy, but see how I'm sort of start and stop and making them. And again, you could use your paint thin down too, or a fine liner if you found that the Sharpie was coming out too heavy. And then we'll outline these little scallops. Again, I'm not getting them perfect. I'm not outlining and working really hard to get it just right. I'm sort of just doing my scallops. If it follows the pattern, so be it. If it's a little different, it doesn't matter. And then if you're not happy, just step aside from it. Look at it later. Let it sit. It magically sort of fixes itself. I've done that. I've taken and I've been doing a painting for class, and I have an idea and I work on it and I work on it, and then I say, this is not going to work. I'm going to have to do this over. I'll do it in the morning. And I get up in the morning and I look at it. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. The little elves came overnight and fixed it because it's fine and we're going with it. So I just am outlining the tail a bit here with my little kind of stop and start strokes. The only thing else I would add is on her tail, her fin here, I like to put a little yellow in there. So because this is a little bit hard to show up sometimes, I'm using my deep ochre, but I'm going to take just a little touch of white. And I'm going to just do a couple of little strokes. So it's just not all just green and black on the tail. Can you see the little strokes I just made? I just put in between here a little bit, following that little shape. And that's it. I think that's all we need on our guy. Our girl, not our guy, our girl. So what do you think? I love the Frida Mermaid idea, but I'd love to see what you do with it and how you incorporate different things. Now, it would be cool. I think I actually did outline the heart too. It would be cool to write a name, a date, something personalized in the heart, a little quote or a phrase that you like. It's perfect with a white Sharpie, a white paint pen or a paintbrush, and you could write something right in the middle there too. So anyways, oh, Kim, you're welcome. Barbara, oh, I'm glad you're here. Hi, I'm so glad to see you guys all here. But again, I've streamed this everywhere, and you can find the recording on YouTube, and you can message me or comment with any questions at all. I am around. If you need help finding the tracers on Dropbox, let me know. And thank you guys for taking part in Under the Sea here on Online Paint Night. That is so exciting. It's going to be a great month. There will be presenters all month, so please do tune in as well to the other people. I'm going to sign off. Oh, Deb, I'm glad you like it. Thank you, guys. You're welcome. Thank you guys for being here. I'd rather paint with you guys than all alone. Thank you so much. I am going to go and happy painting. I'll see y'all soon. Bye now.